Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome. Make that 9:02 p.m. Eastern Time in a beautiful New York City, Hell's Kitchen. Right now it's a beautiful, balmy 30 degrees. And before we get started in this celebration of what we believe in, I've got to say something right now. That it is so wonderful to be a part of something where we are rooting for the federal government, for the FBI, for Kash Patel, for law enforcement, maybe, just maybe to rescue this Nancy Guthrie as they're moving in right now. If you're just tuning in, they're moving in SWAT teams and hostage negotiating teams to move in, perhaps maybe to rescue her, or to seize perhaps the brother-in-law, son-in-law. But wouldn't that be wonderful if this lady could be somehow just captured finally, and the totality of the circumstances? It's a time, my friends, to be elated. And it reminds me that I want to root for the good guys. I'm tired of living in a world where we're separated. I want us all to come together, reach out and hug. Let us hug. Remember, we're on the same team. We're on the same team. And I say to you, I love you. Everybody, turn to your friends. Turn to people right now and say, you love them. And even if you're not American, doesn't matter. We love you too. Because I'm tired of the divisiveness. And I'm finding out tonight that this Bitcoin, which supposedly you can't trace, that might have been the way they said Bitcoin activity as they're looking for this woman. So wait a minute, Bitcoin activity, what are you talking about? I thought that was completely free and under the radar. Not necessarily. So my friends, if you pray for this poor lady who must be, and I hope she's alive. I really do. And I don't know if you've been following this, but they found the camera. It appears to be somebody, as I had suggested, day one, I would look at a Mexican. Not because Mexicans are bad people, but because in the surrounding area, especially in Mexico City, kidnapping is something that is through the roof. So anyway, my friends, we'll talk about that. Let me say welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's say, remember how everybody, let's say hello and hug and love. If you're new to this, this fandango that we're doing, we've been doing this for a while. And there are many of us who have become friends over the years, and many of us who have become really close to each other, close in so many ways. And I think it's terrific. And I just want to remind ourselves that we're on the same team. I can't say this enough. There's so much going on. First and foremost, there's what we've been seeing regarding this woman. And again, I hope that the federal government as well. I hope that that President Trump, say what you want, he's our president, and I stand by him. He may not be perfect. Then again, who is? Are you perfect? Well, maybe you are, but I'm anything but perfect. I'm so far from perfect, it's not even funny. I am a sinner. I am a wretch. I am a nothing. I am a zero. But with friends like you, I'm somebody. But I stand behind our president, whose statue I celebrate here. And I hope that we get the chance with this, that Kash Patel, who's caught so much grief, that the FBI, I want the FBI to do well. I want us to do well. I want law enforcement. Who remembers the FBI with a Quinn Martin production, with Ephraim Zimbalist Jr.? They were the good guys. And I want this lady to be found. I really do. Then that's one thing. Then we have, of course, what's going on in the world of the Epstein case. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could go deep, plumb the depths of these horrible folks and bring them to justice once and for all? Wouldn't that be beyond great? Wouldn't that be wonderful, dear friends? Wouldn't that be great to get these people? It enrages me more than you can imagine. And today, by the way, America first. I say that not to be divisive. Oh, I'm waving the flag. I hope you don't mind it. I've been feeling. It's like, what is going on? Maybe you felt this way. I'm thinking to myself, what's going on? I'm feeling like everybody, we're all attacking each other. And even though, I so appreciate, and I think she's wonderful. I think what Candace Owens has been doing is to make people so aware of what's going on. But this is one of these wedges, and it shouldn't be that way. These wedges that are separating us. And I don't understand this. And I wish maybe somebody would realize, in addition to other things, that we get to the bottom of who actually killed Charlie Kirk, because I'm not buying the official story. I want justice. I'm proud of this country. I'm actually proud of this country. I really am. I know this may sound crazy, may sound lunatic to you, but I really am. And specifically, maybe not the government, but I am proud of us, what we've been able to do, our culture, our way of living, our music, our everything. I mean that like you cannot believe. I mean it I'm so serious about that. In any event, so let's see who's there tonight. Look at this. Gracie is there. Gracie loves George. Bless her heart. Bobby, Beijing Yank, Davis Kenneth. Let's do a little thing, can we? Can we do something right now? Can we do a little bit of a roll call? Where's everybody from? Let's start off in a nice way. Wait till you see the melange of humanity coming out of everywhere. Look at where people are from. Look at this. Where is this right now? Look at this. Beijing, my dollar is losing purchasing power. Not good. I wish you the best. I want there to be peace in the valley, my friends. Where's everybody from? Just check this out. Look at this. Look at this. Michigan and Thomasville, West Virginia, Columbus, Newark, McAllen, Texas, Missouri. Isn't that just, it never, London, our London friends. Wesley Chapel. Oh, there we go. Ladies and gentlemen, Dale Kimball. Brother Dale. AMDG, my friend. AMDG. Dale and I went to the same high school together. Dale's much older than I am. He's enfeebled. But what are you going to do when you're that age? Anyway, here we are. Plano, Texas. Colorado. Cheerio, London. Texas, New York. Wonderful. Port Charlotte, Florida. Incredible. New Hampshire. Glorious, glorious, glorious days. You know, Dale, I found out that I didn't know this, but our teacher in high school, Ernie Charette, had passed away. What a good man. What a great, great guy. I realized that. And you know what? As we get older, a lot of people are kicking. Have you noticed, anybody noticed this AI tool where they have all these people when they're younger, and then they have them older, and then, somebody will come out with wings, and you realize, oh, he died. They had the crew from Barney Miller. Do you know that Abe Vigoda, Fish, was like 54 years old in Barney Miller? Oh, my God. Hitler was just 55 when he, isn't it funny? Lincoln was 50-something. FDR, I think, was in the young 60s. Wow. Isn't that something? AI. But anyway, my friends, first and foremost, what is the issue, dear friends? I want to hear from you. What is the issue? Deceive. Never deceive. What is the issue that you think is the most important and we need to discuss? The issue that confounds the world, both internationally, nationally, domestically. What is it, my friends? What is it? I like Beijing says, you're proud of this country because it's the only one you know. Well, Beijing, that may be true, but it's the only country I'm from. It's the only country I'm from. It's the land of my family. It's the land of everything. I love this place. And I think it's great that you're elsewhere from different countries, and I wish you nothing but the best. But I'm unabashedly proud of, again, not the government per se, but my people and what we brought together. I love Fish, called the supervisor, the PO, Fish. He looked like Fish. Abe Vigoda. Abe Vigoda used to walk around New York. A couple of times we'd see him. Oh, my God. He looked like death warmed over. Remember the time they had hash brownies? Remember that episode, Hash Brownies? It's interesting. They had the episode of Hash Brownies with Barney Miller. Then they had the cocaine cookies in Taxi. But the one scene where Abe Vigoda ate the hash brownies. And all of a sudden they went out and the door slams open and Abe says, get in that. Get in that cell. He goes, get him away from me. Get him away from me. And Barney's looking at him like, what are you talking about? And Abe was jumping from building to building. And Harris said, hey, Barney, the cookies are hash. And he says, there's hash in here? And Yamana said, mushy mushy. Remember, it was great. One of my favorite episodes. They don't make it like that anymore, my friends. Federico and against CDC and pharma for collusion and wrongful death. Yes. Wouldn't that be something? Who would you love to see right now? This is terrible to say this. But whose incarceration would you absolutely love to see? Whose incarceration would remind you, dear friends, that maybe, just maybe, there's some kind of truth in the world? Would it be Hillary Clinton? Would it be Mayorkas? Would it be Fauci? Whose incarceration? Think about this. Whose incarceration would make you feel that maybe there's some justification? There's some. I want to see people, especially children. Tonight, by the way, if you get a chance, listen to WABC from 1 to 5. But at 1 o'clock every Wednesday, we have my beloved, the one and only, the greatest, the woman who gave me life, Lynn Shaw from Lynn's Warriors. We do a thing called Warrior Wednesday, and she brings people up to speed. It's the best one. Insert opinion says, we're all the TPUSA employees replaced by spooks. We're all the, TPUS, yes, Talking Point USA replaced by spooks. You know what's funny about that? And thank you, by the way. I wonder where those folks are going. Do you know? I feel sorry for Talking Point USA. And I got to tell you something right now. And let me just say something. I'm going to be from one topic to the next. I'm warning you. It's how I think. One topic. Might be mid-sentence. I may hit 2, 3. I may bifurcate. I may basically just take a topic and break it down, come back to it later, reference it. It's the way I am. But what Candace Owens has done for TPUSA is absolute, just, it's been just incredible. And I like her. And I'm not going to apologize for that. I like her stuff. I love people who have guts. I love people who take on the biggest names. They may not always be right. And there are people who I think ideologically I disagree with, but I love the fact that they speak up and that they're loud. And they don't mind taking on the powerful people. I think that's wonderful. But I think she is an inspiration. Number one, because she's the only one who seems to care about Charlie Kirk. Let me ask you this, my friends. I asked you this question before, and I'm fascinated. Do you believe, yes or no, with a number 1 for yes or with a number 2 for no? You may think I'm crazy. You may think I'm daft. You may think I'm strange. You may think I'm out of my mind. But do you believe that there is the remotest possibility, I'm not going to say whether it's true or not, but that Charlie Kirk could be alive today in some kind of WITSEC, some place where he is under a new name, a new identity, just why, I don't know. But do you think that's even possible, yes or no? Trump 2020, remember that one? They took that from us. Do you think it's possible? Do you think it's possible? Not probable. Not probable, not likely, not convenient, but if they wanted to do it, do you think it's possible? And when somebody says, no, I don't think Charlie's alive, how do you know that? How do you know that? Do you assume that, well, if he weren't, it would be so difficult for people to keep a secret like that quiet for so long? Certainly somebody somewhere would have to speak up. Certainly somebody somewhere wouldn't be able to just keep something of that nature quiet. Right? There's no way they could do that. Somebody would spill the beans. Somebody would say, look, plus he's a tall guy. There's no way it could happen. No way. Let me ask you a question. How many people do you think you need to pull something off? How many people do you think you need in an organization to pull something off? How many people do you think you need to accomplish something? As you know, there was that wonderful CIA memorandum. And it was an operating memorandum. And it said that what they needed to do, what they did was to weaponize the term conspiracy theory. You know that, right? You know that. You recognize it. And one thing is that they said, because it came after the Warren Commission, and people absolutely hated the Warren Commission. This is before the Zapruder film, which came in 1977 or so during the Geraldo Rivera show at night. So they never saw the Zapruder film. They just knew there was something wrong with this. And one of the things they did was they said, it's important for you to recognize the fact that when you dispute this, you must tell people it's impossible for something like this to be carried out because the number of people that you would need is inordinate to pull something like this off. And with this number, people don't keep secrets. During the Manhattan Project, there were maybe, and with Los Alamos, I don't even know about that, but with the Manhattan Project, there might have been, I don't know, maybe 100,000 people, that whole process, but only 4 or 5 knew. Is compartmentalization. Not everybody knew this. It's a story that involves lots and lots and gobs of people involved in something. How many people do you think would have been responsible for pulling off 9/11? Is there anybody here who believes, and please, I want to show respect. Is there anybody here who believes the official narrative of 9/11, namely that you had 2 planes that hit, and when these planes hit, the jet fuel, the combustion and the explosion of the jet fuel caused steel to become elastic and plastic and melt and give way, causing structural design and for the entire piece to fall. Mr. Sal Angelo, so glad to see you. Glad to see we're back to the old content. Thank you, my friend. Sal, you're a mensch. You're a mensch. And a mensch, and a mensch of the first order. Thank you, sir. How many people believe that? Does somebody actually believe it? You must believe it. Kindergarten kids wouldn't believe it. Pull it. Larry Silverstein. That was Building 7. Pull it. Is there anyone here, anybody, who believes this plane that flew, and imagine this is flies in, hits, and what happens if I take a jug full of kerosene, which is jet fuel, and I put it in a big gallon jug, and I have a fuse or a wick, and I throw it. What happens? It hits, it explodes. Most of it will burn, but some of it might kind of spread out. And then what happens? It blows up. Not blows up, but it burns up. Now, if it catches something on fire, there we go with that. But it's not like lava that seeps and then drips down the corners and the support structures and causes all of the beams and all of the support to give way exactly at the same time. Exactly at the same time. Causing there to be a free fall collapse. Meaning, it's like imagine a Jenga configuration where I just pull out the middle portion and it falls. How could you explain pulling out the middle portion of something? And successively, how do you explain the squibs? How? How did this happen? But they looked at you. They looked at you and said, that's the official story. And if you say something, not only are you crazy, you're un-American. You're a conspiracy theorist. Cash Patel, Dan Bongino, your girlfriend, Bill Barr said that they believed that Mr. Epstein was the product of self-harm, even though medically, the evidence is there. Hyoid cartilage, hyoid bone rather, thyroid cartilage. Do you see what they do? They tell you that's the way that was. Building 7, ladies and gentlemen. Building 7, my wife and I were here, 5:20 p.m. What's Building 7? WTC 7. Did you ever see BBC? The woman who says, and the Solomon Brothers building has fallen. Did you see the other day when they talked about Epstein's demise, before his demise? Did you see this? People make a mistake. Do you remember the other day, my friends, when years ago there was this thing called the Pizza Gate? You understand that? Pizza Gate. And you were told you were crazy if you believed in it. What are you talking about? Remember that? Remember? Did you make this up? Did you come up with this? Did you? Of course not. Who brought this up? Who taught you this? Where did this come from? You're crazy. You're out of your mind. What's the matter with you? Remember that? So what if there's pizza? So what if John Podesta and others are talking about pizza? So what if 2 grown men, highly educated, highly powerful members of the government, wanted to repeat sentence after sentence, mail after mail, epistle after epistle, missive after missive about pizza? How many slices? How many people will be there? Will there be hot dogs too? What kind of sauce for the pizza? I've seen drug couriers, drug discussions, and I've seen drug discussions that were more cryptic than this. Do you remember what happened? Do you remember when WikiLeaks brought this up, when all this discussion was going on? There were the lunatics on 4chan and Reddit. Thank God for them. 4chan and Reddit. And what did they do? What did they say, ladies and gentlemen? What did they say, my dear friends? They were the ones who said, hey, we know what that means. In fact, there was a kind of a PDF file section devoted to this particular endeavor. They knew this. Then this particular pizza establishment, nobody said that that was where all of this happened. Remember when this fellow named Alephantis, remember the name Alephantis? Did you ever notice that name? You know what it looks like? L'enfant. The children. Isn't that interesting? Can you tell me, my dear friends, can you please tell me why somebody didn't bring in Jean Podesta and say, what does this mean? Please take the 5th, please. What does this mean? What does this mean? Ladies and gentlemen, Zamit says, a nation which protects PDFs and not their victims is not a nation anymore. Absolutely, kind sir. Our friend Mahatma Gandhi, Mohandas Gandhi, said, you can tell about the morality of a country by how they treat their animals. And the way we treat our children is beyond barbaric. And it tells people we don't care about them. They're there for our pleasure and arousal in some place. It's beyond anything you've ever seen. Remember they said, you're a conspiracy theorist. I've been doing this for a while, my friends. I've been screaming about geoengineering since the beginning of time. Some people called it chemtrails. I met Dane Wigington, a great friend of mine, a great, great friend. And I said, be on the lookout for this. Johnny Jelaine says Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein were actually Washington Post gatekeepers of Watergate. Thank you for that. Bob Woodward came from, by the way, he was the same town, I believe, as John Belushi, Wheaton, Illinois, I believe, Illinois. Bob Woodward was Navy Intel. Navy Intel. Navy Intel. Did you remember the story? This was a palace coup. Remember why they did this. Remember, this was Nixon's foreign policy. He wasn't a hawk. He wanted expansion. He wanted cooperation. He wanted to be friends with China and Russia. Nixon was a great man. Richard Nixon was a great, great man. Who was Deep Throat? Let's see if you know. Who was Deep Throat? Come on. Who was a Deep Throat? Who was that? Not Phelps? Mark Felt? Nope. Nope. Hicks? Nope. Who? Who do you think? Who do you think? Alexander Haig. Alexander Haig. Oh, yes, my friends. That was a palace coup, a soft coup, and nobody is looking for them. Nobody, because remember, you're given a version of history. Remember what Tolstoy said, history would be a wonderful thing if only it were true. On September I'll never forget, on 9/11, when we were here and we were walking around like, what the is going on here? Zamet says, where is Bob Woodward now? Pizzagate much bigger than Watergate. Ooh. But by the way, it's not Pizzagate per se. That's not the issue. That was the entree. That was the evidence that led to a conspiracy of treachery, the likes of which we can't put into words, dear friends. We can't put it into words. It was beyond anything we've ever seen. Beyond that. And wasn't that interesting? That was very appropriate that we had somebody with a rifle decide to shoot that up. Boy, that shot that down, no pun intended. And see what they love to do? Let me explain about these people. They love to do it in front of you. So anyway, when the Epstein files came, guess what? There's that pizza talk again. What the hell is going on here? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yep. Yep. You see, they always want you, remember, history would be a wonderful thing if only it were true. Tolstoy. History is written by the winners. History is a myth that men agree to believe. This is Napoleon. Remember when 9/11 happened and we had Flight 93? Who remembers? Raise your hand. Who remembers Flight 93, Shanksville? Here's the plane. And there was a man named Todd Beamer. Todd Beamer. And Todd Beamer decided he was going to, along with a bunch of brave Americans, storm that, well, after the terrorists stormed the cockpit, he said, we're going to do it, and we're going to fight this. Remember what they said. The Todd Beamer said, let's roll. Do you remember this, my friend? Let's roll. Let's roll. Question, who heard this? How do you know he said, let's roll? That plane went down. Everybody in that plane died. Everybody. Let's roll. Who heard this? Was somebody on the phone then? And by the way, those phones, 2001 flip phones, my God, they were making calls left and right. Remember the individual who called his mother and said, this is, Warren Jackson. called his mother and gave her his whole name. That was odd. How do we know what Todd Beamer said? There were some individuals whom I met right at the time, right at the beginning, and they tried to find his grave and find her. Remember the wife? And basically that was nowhere to be found. There was a fellow named Victor Thorne. Look at him, and I knew him. Look what happened to him. He was one of the original investigators. He's not with us anymore, Victor. No. He talked about the way when the buildings fell, the pyroclastic dust. Pyroclastic is what you see in lava and volcanoes. When concrete is pulverized. Remember that? Pulverized. When you drop a cinder block off a building and it hits the ground, it pulverizes, but not when it falls. Why is it going like that? Why were beams shot out 300 feet, shot out like a cannon? How does that work? You don't need a degree in that, my friends. But Flight 93, let's roll. How do we know he said let's roll? And I'll never forget, that's what got me into it. What got me into it is when somebody called me up and said, do you know about Shanksville? Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Remember this? Flight 93. It had just happened. And I remember looking online, looking through the pictures, looking through the images, looking. And I said, excuse me, I'm looking at it. I said, well, you see it. There was a fire truck and some people with white coats on, and they were standing around, and remember that? And they were just doing it, and then there was some steam, and I said, where's the plane? It's not like Hervé Villechaize. The plane. Where's the plane? Where is the plane? Where is it? And someone called up and said, what are you getting at? What am I getting at? That's when I knew something was up. I never knew what a conspiracy was. Do you know where they found the remnants of that plane? Indian Lake and New Baltimore, about 8 miles away. Remember that? The debris, the magazines, it's as though the plane blew up. It blew up from a missile or just blew up? Somebody said, why are we finding 6-ton titanium engines 8 miles away? There was nothing there. There was nothing there. There's no debris there. We put this obelisk up, this memorial. Obama's like this, Trump's like this. There's nothing there. You know what somebody said one time? They said, where's the plane? Where did it go? What happened? You know what they said? They said that, there's a lot of mining in Pennsylvania right around there, and the ground is very soft from the mining. So that when it hit, it just was either the plane just atomized into the granular atomic composite. It just blew up into shreds, little particulate nothing. Or it was kind of sucked up into the ground. I said, well, how do you explain the engines 8 miles away? Well, it was windy that day. I shit you not. Hani Hanjour. Who's that? Who's Hani Hanjour? Hani Hanjour was the pilot who flew the plane into the Pentagon. How do we know his name? Did he say his name? This is the guy who they wouldn't allow to rent a plane in Minneapolis. He did a 300-degree arc, dropped 6,000 feet, and flew 6 feet off the ground into the Pentagon. And there was no plane, left a 16-foot hole. I could go on and on. My friends, they're not going to call us crazy. They can do it. They can try. We're not going to do that. The vaccine. We've been through this. You've been through this. Come on. Vietnam. We've been through that. Watergate. We're lied to. 1898, remember the Maine. Havana Harbor. We blew that up. False flags. We love to be lied to. We won't be lied to, my dear friends. We're not going to do that. We are the most powerful people in the world. And one day we're not going to get back at these people through prosecution. No, no. When we grow to the point that we're bigger than anybody's ever seen, and we have our own little tribunals, our own little Russell tribunals, our own little Sartre tribunals. After Vietnam, they had these citizen tribunals where people would just meet. Did you ever see Summer Soldier or about these Vietnam vets who met and told stories about what they went through? See, one day we're going to have something on TV which rivals Geraldo Rivera when he did, remember the stage or the Al Capone vault? And by the way, to his credit, that was one of the biggest moments in pay-per-view ever. So granted, it was a bit of a waste of time, but still it was something which was critical. In any event, dear friend, in any event, there was this event that was so interesting, so fascinating, called the Russell Tribunal. They went around the country. And what we need to do is we need to put on our own version of this. And we need for it to be the biggest thing anybody's ever seen. The biggest thing anybody's ever seen. And we want to introduce people. We need to get who is going to be the new. Remember Dylan Avery? I met him, a fine young man. He did Loose Change. Loose Change is still one of the most important seminal effects ever. Make sure you tell your kids. Make sure you tell your grandchildren. Make sure you tell people. And if you're young, welcome. We are a member of a very, very serious group right now. And they're telling us that we're crazy. And we love it. It gives us oxygen. You only take flack when you're over the target. Absolutely, positively. 100%. And it is so American for us to say, nope. See, I think there's something to us. I think there's something I'm proud of this. I know a lot of my friends, and by the way, I love our brothers and sisters from around the world, but I think there's something about us. We are the people, we are very, very good. We are great bullshit detectors. We know it better than anybody. In fact, one of our most favorite sports ever is 100% unmitigated bullshit, and that's professional wrestling. And we know it, and we love it. And the better you can pull it off, the better for us. We learned kayfabe. It's what changed my life. Gordon Soley taught me, Bobby the Brain Heenan, great friends of mine. I got to see something that I've never seen. I used to think, isn't it great that you're involved in the business that does nothing but lie and distort? And he goes, what are you talking about? They all do. They all do. And I'm going to tell you something right now, my friends. And I know some may disagree with me, but I understand with it. I understand. Donald Trump will be the president that you'll be telling your grandkids about if you're young enough. And you're going to say, you're not going to believe this guy. You're not going to believe this guy. This guy, there is what, he just, am I right? He did whatever he wanted. We're not at war right now. I think he scares the hell out of people. Now, I don't agree. Believe me, when you say, well, would you agree? No, I would do something much, much different than what he did. But remember, he's from a different generation. But what he did, no. He is absolutely, positively, there's nothing like him. There were people years ago in the military. Curtis LeMay, George Patton, Sherman, Ulysses S. Grant. These were people who, see, Patton was a nut. Patton was, his wife was, he was filthy rich. He was in a polo. He was a patrician. He lived in, he just loved war. He was like, no. You ever hear his voice? His voice, you cannot believe. It sounds almost like Louisiana, real high-pitched and squeaky. And what he did was, he did something different. He says, why am I sitting here waiting? Tanks were like this, artillery, waiting. He took his, was it Third Army, and he just took off. He would actually mobilize. They said, you can't do it. He goes, yes, I can. Curtis LeMay, who had that mouth, he had Bell's palsy, he always had that cigar. And he took B-29s, 19, used them as dive bombers. Nobody did that. He did that. They said, you're crazy. William Tecumseh Sherman, out of his mind. War, it made him nuts. PTSD, like you can't believe, but he never stopped. He never stopped. It killed him, but he kept going. He didn't say, I'm out of here. He goes, oh, no, I'm in the war, but I'm... U.S. Grant, a complete, his name was Hiram. Remember his name? His name wasn't even Ulysses. But, by the way, a little trick. He's a Riverside Drive. You can see where his mausoleum is. Here's a question. Where is Grant's tomb? No, where is Grant buried? No, excuse me. Who is buried in Grant's tomb? And the answer is no one, because he wasn't buried. It's a mausoleum. It's above ground. You don't bury him. That's the trick. Anyway, this guy was amazing. Just amazing. Remember when they told Lincoln, they said, he's a drunk. He's a drunk. He says, well, find out what he drinks and give a case to all my generals. He was brilliant. You know who else was great? General Jap from the Vietnam NVA. Oh, my God. This guy was brilliant. He wasn't crazy. Lived to be 100 and something. General Jap beat the United States. You got to hand it to him. Completely revolutionized war. Completely. He would say things like, his line was, we're going to grab them by the belt, by the buckle, by the belt. We pull them in close because they can't hit us with artillery, and then we take off. They won't know where we are. We'll freak them out. Of course, this is from us, who decided to hide behind trees with snipers during the Revolutionary War. Here in New York, you know where you can see all the history? New Jersey, Morristown, all of its revolutionary history, all of it. Across Brooklyn, the East River, where Washington was, this is nothing but revolutionary. Go to Pennsylvania, go to Philly. This is what we're about. We're wild, and Trump is right there. Trump is right there. Pilgrim says, Bomber Command Harris. All righty. Thank you. Not sure what that means, but thank you. Donald Trump, remember he was shot. They were going to kill him. The bullet, they caught the bullet in mid-flight, mid-trajectory. You gotta be kidding. You gotta be kidding me. He did it, went down, and two things he said. One was, get my shoes. Those John Lobs, those custom-made, the Upper East Side. The other one was, stood up, faced perhaps another assassin, didn't cower, didn't pull a Jim Baker. Remember Jim and Tammy Faye? He was hiding under the table. Did like, man's got cojones like this. Unbelievable. We will never see the likes of him again. When he gets on Marine One and flies to Andrews Air Force Base and it takes the plane back where it won't be anymore Air Force One. It will be whatever. It's going to be one of the saddest days. Stonewall Jackson, a university professor. Absolutely. Remember this, Raphael? When Stonewall Jackson, he said, what day is it? When he was on his deathbed, he says, Sunday, he says, I always wanted to die on a Sunday. Boom. Wow. Now, there are people who went through this, like you cannot believe. He burned Dresden into a cinder. I believe, was Dresden, was that LeMay or was that Doolittle? Doolittle was Japan. Do you know that Jimmy Doolittle, this guy, did you ever see him? He looks like the Keebler elf. Badass. 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 Let me tell you something. This is just absolutely, he was the greatest. This is a guy who decides. This is a guy who decides that he's going to show his men what it's like. And he took off. He took off of an aircraft carrier with a bomber, fully loaded. And this, when the bomber, they weren't sure if it had enough space or, ramp or whatever you want to call it. And when it went off, it dropped. He was the first one. You look at him, a little guy like that. Phenomenal. This is Jimmy Doolittle. And the greatest of the greats of the greats. The greatest of the greats of the greats. This is absolutely George Catlett Marshall. George C. Marshall was, oh my God, probably the greatest American who's ever lived. Do you know that when George Marshall was he was a young man, and he blackjack Pershing. Remember, there are two. Everybody thinks that there were 5-star generals. That's a general of the army, and it was arranged, so to speak, to try to compete with the field marshal. We had nothing really similar to that. So for Eisenhower, since he was Allied Supreme Commander, they came up with a 5-star general. General of the Army. Who was General of the Armies? 6 stars. 6. Only 2. George Washington, posthumously in 76, the bicentennial, and Blackjack Pershing, John Pershing. So this guy was as hardcore with a mustache. So George Marshall was like he was a lieutenant or somebody, and Blackjack Pershing came in for something, and Marshall was like, "I gotta ask you a question. We need this, or my men need this, or you're ignoring us, whatever it was." And Pershing didn't listen to him. This is Blackjack Pershing. He can see whatever he wants. And Marshall put his hand on him. You know what happens when you touch a made guy? You know what happens if you put your hands on a boss? If you touch a made guy in the mafia, you're dead. They told me, I said, you're through. You went up to Black. He goes, wait a minute. He was leaving and he grabbed him by the arm. What are you doing? He says, my men, sir. They became such good friends that he became, I think he was Pershing's best man at his wedding. You know, Yamamoto was also trained by the U.S. Yes, Yamamoto, by the way, I think he went to Harvard. Oh, another one too is Matthew Ridgway. Iron Tits. Remember him? He wore, look at him, Matthew Ridgway. He had like 6 heart attacks. They said he married this real young woman. I mean, younger than he was. He lived to be almost 100 years old. And he had a grenade and a first aid thing called an Iron Tits. He saved more lives. And O.P. Smith, by the way, during Korea. These people were... Now, in real life, Omar Bradley, well, he was okay. Remember, he was bull of a watch, I think. But Patton, they were freaks. They had leadership that you can't believe. They did something. And Trump loves it. Like I'm telling you, my friends, I know he's not perfect. And I never said he was. But I would proudly vote for him again and again and again and again. And we need him. We also need to get tougher and meaner, and people need to respect us more. And we need to stand up for what we believe in more. I think we've abandoned There's two things which are the most important to most Americans: crime and this unmitigated bullshit dealing with transgender, this and that, and the mutability, the transmogrification of gender. That's absolute unmitigated balderdash. Bullshit. And my friends, we are going to our future is something that you are not even going to be able to comprehend, no matter how carefully no matter how great and how fecund your imagination. But just remember something. Never let these people tell you what you can and can't think. Never ask permission to opine. Never ask for permission to say you don't believe in something. If it stinks to you, there's a reason for that. Never turn your back on your own instincts. Never. You're smarter than you can even imagine. And it has nothing to do with books, nothing to do with degrees. Just sit back and just let your instincts take over. Does this make sense to you? Does this make sense? No. Sometimes these are hard. Sometimes there are things that are metaphysical, perhaps religious, spiritual, that defy logic. Never turn your back on that. But what I'm telling you is that they're not going to stop us. We represent something which is so good. We are so powerful. Let me tell you something. For the longest time, as you know, my friends. Oh, there's Raphael. He said, Longstreet was the best man in Grant's wedding. Interesting. How did that come about? By the way, don't ever kid yourself. Don't ever kid yourself. When they tell you that the Civil War was about slavery, if that's what they tell you, if it's about slavery, that when people went and joined the first, North Carolina, whatever, because of slavery, they fought because their fathers and their brothers were fighting. That's why they fought. And don't forget, by the way, the Republican Party. Remember the Republican Party in 1856, I believe, in Philadelphia. The first convention ever. The position was, the platform was against they call it the twin pillars of barbarism: polygamy and slavery. That's the Republican Party. The Republican Party today, I don't recognize. I don't recognize any of these. Because no Republican would allow what they're doing to children. There's no Republican that would go to bed with these people, these Silicon Valley people. There's no Republican who really believed in liberty would sit there and basically kiss the arse of big tech and to assuage and to placate and grease the skids for AI, which is going to be the destruction. AGI, by the way, is going to be the destruction of humanity. But I don't want to give you too much. Too much. Let me just thank you for this. Thank you. Are we feeling good tonight? Are we feeling good? Every now and then it's important to sit there and say, we got to understand where we get along. And the great, who remembers Hawaii Five-0? Remember that? McGarrett, Jack Lord, James, was it in McGregor? Not McGregor. This was Helen Hayes' son, MacArthur, James MacArthur. And it was Zulu as Kono and Cam Fong as Chin Ho Kelly. And don't forget what Chin Ho said. We're all in this together, brother. And we are all in this together, brother. You're my brother and my sister. I don't give a damn what you are, black, white, green, purple, red. Doesn't matter. I don't care your age, where you're from. It doesn't matter. I care what's in your heart. Here. Like Mr. Miyagi said, Danja-san, karate is here. Here. Never. Pointing to my gut. Okay? All right, my friends. You have a gorgeous, splendiferous evening. Thank you. And insert opinion, thank you. My good friend, Sal Angelo, bless your heart. Thank you. Zamet, thank you. Johnny Jelaine, Sosa Kind, Pilgrim Media, Rafael Lagande, thank you, my friends. And you have been just wonderful. Have a great and a glorious night. God bless America. God bless what we're doing. Remember this. I'm serious. I know it sounds corny. I don't care if it's corny. You know why things are corny? Because they're popular. They're popular. All right, dear friends. Have a great and a glorious night. We will see you later. If you happen to be around the radio tonight or the app, 1 to 5 overnights, WABC. Listen, listen, listen. And if you call in, tell the screener who you are, that you're a member of the nation, and we'll let you ride in. I love you. Thank you, my friends. Thank you also for supporting my beloved wife, Lynn Shaw, and Lynn's Warriors. Thank you for subscribing to Lynn's Warriors. She is doing so much at so many levels, and she's dealing with, you can't believe the survivors and the stories she hears. So please, thank you for this. We appreciate it. Lynn's Warriors on YouTube and Lynn's Warriors on X. All right, dear friends, have a great time. I'll have some questions for you later on so you can go back and continue the conversation. Until we meet again, remember, this is Lionel with you, reminding you the monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue ya. Da-da.